Good afternoon. Welcome back for our afternoon capstones. Today our first capstone is by Ms. Therese Friddell, and this is her thesis statement. Americans must fight the growing health crisis of today, specifically obesity, with primary prevention through regular exercise and balanced nutrition, thus improving metabolic health, extending our health span, and promoting healthy aging. Please welcome Therese.
Next time you walk through your local supermarket, look around you. The aisles are filled with hundreds of brightly packaged, ultra-processed, calorie-dense foods, all at eye level. Pay attention as you wait in line to check out. The cashier and those waiting in line with you, many seem to be overweight. This situation portrays the environment we live in that is directly fueling one of the largest health crises of American society. The American environment of the 21st century is burying us faster than we realize. Because of this, Americans must fight the growing health crisis of today, specifically obesity, with primary prevention through regular exercise and balanced nutrition, thus improving metabolic health, extending our health span, and promoting healthy aging. First, I will explain the causes of obesity and the way it impacts our aging and health, and finally, how it can be prevented. Obesity is defined by Yale Medicine as, quote, excess body fat, often concentrated in the abdomen, that leads to organ dysfunction, functional impairment, or significant limitations in daily life, end quote. Whether one is classified as obese, overweight, or a healthy weight is through a body mass index, BMI, which measures a person's weight and height in order to find their ideal body weight. Those classified as obese have a BMI of 30 or greater, and those classified as overweight have a BMI of 25 or greater. Although not all people classified as overweight are unhealthy, carrying excess weight puts an individual at risk for multiple serious health concerns. In the 1960s, America held a 13% obesity rate amongst the population. By 2023, America was at a rate closer to 40% of the population. Although poor nutrition and a lack of exercise play a large role in the development of chronic diseases, there are other major factors which can contribute to one being overweight. Inherited genetics and habits formed in childhood, and the advancements of technology and pharmaceuticals all play a role. Through genetics and the habits of parents, many are faced with hundreds of genes linked to obesity. While genetics can influence obesity risk, the potential of developing a poor relationship with physical activity and food play a major role in our health outcomes. Given that these genetics and habitual choices are primarily passed down from parents, directly links to the current state of America, a society of comfort. As consumers in a country that thrives off of consumerism and comfort, we're taught to avoid discomfort at all costs. This environment is seen through the instant order and food delivery apps, which allow us to satisfy our cravings with the touch of a button. This environment has made it easier to move less, eat more, and never sit in discomfort. This culture has quietly reshaped our habits in every aspect of our lives, from the way we spend our time to the way we eat, and ultimately how we age. This comfort culture is also seen in the pharmaceutical industry. While medications can be helpful to manage disease, they often do not address root lifestyle factors. Nearly 68% of Americans take one prescription drug daily, and 28% take 4 or more. Because of the prevalence of pharmaceutical drugs, the industry has made it nearly impossible to find the root cause of diseases, since the focus is on secondary reactive prevention rather than primary preventative care. If over half of our country takes prescription drugs daily, perhaps there's a bigger problem to solve. Dr. Eric Topol, a renowned cardiologist and researcher, sees an opportunity to change the way we think of pharmaceuticals by contrasting the difference between typical aging and healthy aging. As humans, aging is inevitable, but prematurely getting frail and weak is not. Thus, the practice of healthy aging is crucial. Dr. Topol defines healthy aging as, quote, a strong immune system that wards off chronic diseases like cancer and heart disease, allowing the individual to extend their health span rather than just their lifespan. End quote. Topol writes that in order to achieve a long health span, we must look at the things we do not do. That being, for the majority of Americans, not getting enough sleep, not getting enough exercise, and not having proper nutrition. The average American only spends 2 hours per week exercising. That is half of what the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, recommends for all adults, which is still considered to be too little by healthy aging experts. While exercise plays an important factor in our health, a fundamental contributor to premature aging is nutrition. The dietary guidelines of Americans state that the average American diet consists of excess sodium, saturated fats, refined grains, and calories from solid fats and added sugars. Because the American diet is full of ultra-processed foods, it lacks important nutrients, vitamins, and minerals needed for proper nutrition. On average, the American diet consists of 60% ultra-processed foods. This standard American diet accelerates aging from the inside out, beginning with the gut and later becoming visible through our weight, skin, and behavior. A study done in the United Kingdom by Dr. Chris Van Tullekin researches the side effects of these ultra-processed foods in a study where he increased his ultra-processed food intake from 30% to 80% over a 30-day period. After the study, he reported having poor sleep and feeling sluggish, anxious, and 10 years older. When inflammation from ultra-processed foods occurs, it first inflames and damages the lining of the gut, which weakens the immune system significantly. As we get older, our immune system weakens inevitably, but by weakening our immune system directly through inflammation, we are accelerating the aging process. This is problematic because when the immune system weakens, the body loses its ability to detect and correct cell defects, leading to an increased risk of cancer and other chronic diseases, such as obesity. Another prevalent way nutrition impacts aging is seen through our brain, which also plays a part in physically appearing younger. Ultra-processed foods damage the brain, leading to mental health disorders such as depression. Recent studies have found that poor mental health puts the individual at risk for accelerated biological aging. A study done by JAMA Neurology found that the middle-aged participants who ate the most ultra-processed foods over an 8-year period had an increased rate of 28% in cognitive decline compared to those on a nutritious diet. Decreasing cognitive decline is crucial to prolong healthy aging. When the brain's cognitive functions decline, the human loses cognitive decline. Decreasing cognitive decline is crucial to prolong healthy aging. When the brain's cognitive functions decline, the human loses fundamental skills needed for life, such as completing daily independent skills and controlling one's actions and emotions. Studies have found that a highly processed diet puts the individual at a higher risk for depression and anxiety due to the constant gut-brain connection. A study done at UCLA Health reports that up to 95% of serotonin is produced in the gut. So, we have to eat healthy foods in order to increase the presence of these good bacteria. Once these good bacteria are present, the brain is signaled and we will begin to feel better and think more clearly. But how can Americans fight the health crisis of today? The answer is simple and something most of us know we should do but fail to prioritize. The health crisis of America can be reversed through regular exercise and balanced nutrition. Exercise improves cardiovascular disease, diabetes management, mental health, and bodily function. Amongst multiple health-related benefits, implementing exercise into one's day also improves sleep, time management, mental clarity, self-confidence, and discipline. One example of this is through the link between exercise and type 2 diabetes. Although type 2 diabetes is irreversible, it can have remission through exercise and nutrition in which prediabetes and insulin resistance can be reversed. Exercise, along with nutrition, can be used as a tool to help maintain a healthy glucose level by augmenting glucose disposal and improving insulin action. During exercise, muscles squeeze and move. This allows for an increased blood flow to the muscles, allowing insulin and glucose to enter insulin-dependent and insulin-independent mechanisms. Exercise improves mental health by increasing blood flow to the brain and supporting overall brain function. It creates a positive form of physical stress that helps manage chronic stress more effectively. During exercise, the brain releases neurotransmitters like dopamine, which is linked to pleasure and enjoyment, and serotonin, which is a hormone that stabilizes our mood. This is commonly known as the runner's high. While these are immediate benefits of exercise, the real value comes from consistent, long-term participation. One thing all humans cannot live without is food. Food fuels our entire bodies every single day. Because of this, you would think more Americans would prioritize a healthier diet, but based on the statistics previously mentioned, they do not. Whether they believe they cannot afford it or they just simply do not prefer it, the reality is that the American diet must change in order to decrease the rate of chronic disease in our country. The body needs three major macronutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates supply the body with fuel and energy. Proteins help build and repair bodily tissue, and fats support vital bodily functions. Many Americans believe fats are unhealthy, but not all fats are. As is the case with all nutrients, fats only become a problem when the wrong kind or too much is consumed. In order to address the American health crisis, the American diet must be altered through proper consumption of macronutrients, allowing us to get the vitamins and minerals needed as they play a crucial role in our health. When carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are consumed in the correct proportions and the correct types, the body receives the vitamins it needs and a steady supply of glucose, which directly links to the prevention of chronic disease. Because the majority of America fails to consume a nutritious diet, it is not hard to believe that the CDC reports 73% of Americans to be overweight. The prevalence of obesity and chronic disease in America reflects more than just the individual's lifestyle. It reflects the habits our nation has allowed us to create. The sedentary, imbalanced lifestyle, filled with quick fixes managed by pharmaceutical drug after drug, poses serious health consequences. Addressing these issues at their root is crucial to reverse this trajectory. Americans must shift away from the easy accessibility of ultra-processed foods and weight loss trends in order to sustain long-term health. Obesity and insulin resistance are deeply interconnected, as they are metabolic dysfunctions that lead to the development of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, cancer, and premature biological aging. Evidence has shown the countless benefits of regular physical exercise and balanced nutrition, especially in terms of preventing and managing these diseases. While exercise improves cardiovascular health, blood pressure, mental health, and cellular function, balanced nutrition improves gut health, the immune system, and cognitive function. The American health crisis is not caused by one single factor, but by the lifestyle that has been normalized. By prioritizing our health through regular exercise and balanced nutrition, Americans can extend their health span and decrease the risk of chronic diseases, instead of filling our bodies with harmful ingredients that we do not even know how to pronounce. The future of American health does not depend on quick fixes, but daily choices. Thank you.
Do we have any faculty questions?
Mr. Baker.
Thank you for your presentation. A clarification question. Could you define ultra-processed foods for us?
Ultra-processed foods are foods that have gone through mass production, which have been not just processed foods and just like milk, for example, is a minimally processed food because it's been minimally processed through like homogenization, and ultra processed foods are processed foods that have been added additives, synthetic like ingredients, and that have gone through a large amount of processing in that case.
So in other words, almost everything on the shelf.
Almost.
So then as a follow-up question, it seems like when you go into the grocery store, almost all the foods are in that direction. Do we have I'm curious in your research, did you find that would we have to have major infrastructure changes to the food industry in order to bring about healthy nutrition for the majority of people in the United States?
So to answer your question, I would say yes and no. While ultra processed foods take up the majority of our grocery stores, there are still options that, like shopping on the perimeter of the grocery store, you probably heard that, is the best option because those are the most, like the Whole Foods are on that perimeter. But society markets ultra processed foods so much that it's hard for the American to not go and buy those things. And so in that way, the marketing of ultra processed foods would have to decrease, and the marketing of whole foods and a healthier diet would have to increase, and not so much just like taking away ultra processed foods. Mr. Anderson?
Thank you for your presentation. I saw a bumper sticker that said, "Eat right, exercise regularly, die anyway." I'm curious what you would say to that individual.
Thank you for your question. So in my presentation, I talk about the importance of healthy aging rather than just typical aging. So typical aging is just pretty much that you're going to die anyways. But healthy aging, you do die anyways. But that bumper sticker, for example, you could eat right and you could exercise right. And you could extend your health span, which is the amount of years that you live without chronic disease or limitations in your life, which can help you to have a more enjoyable and more full life instead of just having the ultra-processed diet, which can affect and decrease the amount of fullness that you're able to live out your life. Instead of like, some people say that healthy aging is like wanting to like extend and like longevity and live forever. But I'm just trying to defend that healthy aging is crucial, and that we need to focus on healthy aging, allowing us to extend our health span and live without the chronic diseases instead of our lifespan.
Yeah, I have a quick follow-up. St. Francis of Assisi was famous for fasting and was probably underweight, with a goal of attaining a sort of virtue over himself rather than maybe like a health goal. Do you think there's a place for let's say someone who is trying to adopt some of the practices you're talking about more from like a larger sort of virtue perspective rather than just purely health?
Definitely. I would say virtue plays a large role in living out a healthy lifestyle, because our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit and a gift from God. And in order to respect the gift, we must respect the giver. And so by caring for our bodies through a good nutrition and a healthy exercise and that sort of thing, like changing small lifestyle habits that you can implement into your life, we are able to have the virtues of wanting to care for the gift God has given us, and in that way we're able to exemplify virtues.
Thank you.
Ms. Littell?
For your presentation, Therese. I'm enjoying my quest trips in the back, but eating them slowly now because I'm realizing that they're ultra processed. I think would they be considered ultra processed? Yeah. But that's the thing, though, right? Like these are marketed as healthy alternative. Got like macros, 19 grams of protein. I'm often buying like those Built bars, like the puffy ones, in the house, and like the barbells and these things that, alluding to Dylan's capstone earlier this morning, you want to work out, get a good physique, but what do you do in your daily life that avoids like these sort of, harmful things?
Thank you for your question. I try to eat like a Mediterranean diet, which allows me to get the protein I need, the fibers I need, and the carbohydrates I need, because it doesn't heavily restrict any one of the macronutrients. And so I find that is the most beneficial diet, I guess.
Wow, thank you.
Ms. Pagan.
Thank you for your presentation, Therese. So you mentioned in your presentation that 60% of the population consume ultra-processed foods. I was wondering if in your research you found any statistics that show a disproportionate consumption of these ultra-processed foods based on someone's, for example, socioeconomic demographic? Or is this kind of generally amongst, say, the United States population?
So you're asking, perhaps do those people in low-income areas, experience it more?
Mm-hmm.
In my research, I didn't really find statistics on that, the low-income families were suffering more from it. But that could be a factor because it's harder to have transportation to those grocery stores, in food deserts or things like that. But I didn't really find any statistics that showed that it was heavily weighted on one side or the other, and it was just the average American.
Thank you. And then I have a follow-up question. So we do experience across the United States food deserts, or at least places where it's hard to consume or even afford healthier options. Do you have any advice for people who maybe don't have the means to eat the Mediterranean diet, for example? How can they kind of avoid these ultra-processed foods when they're in a place where they can't necessarily afford it?
Thank you for your question. Well, I understand that cost can be a major factor in people's diet. There is actually Dr. Mark Hyman, who's a functional medicine practitioner, actually has a free guide to multiple recipes that are simple and easy that you can prepare at home, and that cost about $2 per person and about $6 per person for all 3 meals. And it is also SNAP eligible, so I would recommend them to look into that guide, as it can definitely help them, and even increasing their whole food intake from just 2 to 3 meals a week would help tremendously and allow them to implement those healthy habits into their lifestyle.
Thanks, Therese.
Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Therese. I was wondering if you had either thought about or researched the role of community in helping people to develop the positive habits that you're talking about.
So thank you for your question. I would answer that question by, it kind of goes back to the habitual practices that are kind of passed down from your family, since they're your direct community. And so implementing healthier habits from childhood can largely increase the person's ability to successfully have healthier habits. And so as much as it impacts a person and their family, I would assume that it would impact a person in their community the same way, in their larger community at least.
Are there any senior questions?
James?
So you mentioned that it was important for the individual to practice these healthy lifestyles choices, but what would you say is important for the government to do? Because I know that in other countries it's more common because they have certain ultra processed foods, or things that they do to foods are banned. So what would you say is something that the American government could do to help better like impact the average American's diet and health?
I would say that while it's kind of a both and answer, that it's important for the individual to have their daily choices that they do, and the government to provide public parks and better food criteria like RFK Jr. has implemented into it. So the next step, I would just say helping the big businesses to market healthier whole foods more than ultra processed foods would help.
Thank you, Therese.